Star series, which is the alignment of the shaft according to Rudolph Ginnenbrink and Blumen's publication of these data. Now, let's stop here, because the first thing that I thought of was that someone had gotten onto my source, and they knew this person was representing the...
I just want to get this last little piece in.
Disappearing out what was going on, and, you know, we basically been fed a story, all right? I'm always skeptical. There are a lot of people that don't know that I'm very skeptical. I am very skeptical. So I don't want to leave with this story, but there's a couple things about it that make it very improbable that we, in fact, are being conned. And let me tell you a couple of what they are. First of all, in all our discussions on the air, and all my discussions with my colleagues regarding the date of the opening, did you ever hear me mention any other date than December 5th? No. Okay. You didn't for very good reason, because I did. I carefully kept the rest of the calculation, which was other potential dates, a deep, dark secret. I didn't even mention, you know, two others, which were between the time we did the calculation and the end of the year to anybody, because my feeling was that the other two dates were irrelevant for reasons that we don't have to get into. One having to do with the time required to get ready to do something interesting, and the other having to do with the Joe Shore expedition to Egypt, to Cairo, and the coming and going of that particular set of events and personnel and cameras and all that. So I focused exclusively on the December 5th date, so no one knew that.
I want to hear this one last little part.
Cairo time.
Hold up.
Exactly. So no one knew.
Hold up.
Was kind of the man on earth when it comes to all things Egypt.
Hold up.
Robert says, I returned to England on the...
Hold up. I want to get this one last little piece in.
Speculated about what's in his monuments.
Well, he's nasty to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I can say that.
You can do it to your show, yes. You can say anything you want.
Now.
Robert says, to our surprise and excitement, when asked what might be behind the door, remember, the German institute that funded Ginnenbrink denied when this all came out there even was a door. All right.
Well, that's a little silly. We've seen the photo.
Well, but this was in 91.
All right.
Zahi Hawaii denied there was a door.
Figures.
Okay? Dr. Edwards, who is like the living legend, I mean, he was much older, but he was kind of like, the Sagan of Egyptology, as Paul would be to the search for extraterrestrial life, a world's expert to go to.
Right.
Robert says, to our surprise and excitement, when asked what might be behind the door, Edwards said he thought there might be a statue of the king gazing out at the constellation of Orion.
Okay.
Wow. Now, we have a pharaoh in Edwards' mind sitting behind the door, and we have a report now from my source that when they went in on the 20th, they found a statue of a black man with an arm in his lap.
Now this is the point.
Facing up the shaft in a relatively small room. 2.5 meters by 3 meters is basically 6 feet by 4 feet. Alright? Facing up the shaft, which is not toward Orion, it's toward Sirius. Right? Question. Did someone read Laval's book and give my source Edwards' speculation? Or did Edwards have access to information from the Egyptians and the 100 years of the English Rape of the Nile, that's the title of the well-known book on Egypt archaeology, and plunder, such that the keeper of antiquities at the British Museum might have access to figure out on our computer.
Hold up, I want to get to this. It's coming right now.
He is not a reporter.
Hold up, because he's just talking about this particular opening of this day.
Has published an opinion.
Yeah.
In the latest issue, it's called The New Millennium, a journal for times of change and transformation. Ancient Egypt Crisis, published bi-monthly by the University.
Okay.
Enlightenment and the Edgar Casey Foundation. And this is the December 96, January 97 issue. Just came in today. Alright?
Yes.
It says in the opening, find out where this is. It includes a section of pyramids.
Hold up. The hell with that. Hold up.
Overall, make the case that what might be
Hold up.
of 1997.
He's saying they're going to go back in there on March of 1997.
That's the conjunction point for a lot of things. Richard, I've got a fact.
Here it is.
A little impertinent.
Listen.
But I'm going to ask it anyway. No, excuse me, email. Jeff in Denver says, could this be a statue of Louis Farrakhan?
Well, actually, that's not an important question at all. Louis Farrakhan and a number of other black leaders, both in this country and other places, have been very upset with white Anglo-Saxon Egyptology for a very, very long time. Because Europeans basically moved colonially into Egypt and took over and raped the country and the treasures and the heritage of the Egyptians. They put in place a very European projection of what Egypt was all about. And for a very long time in the black community, particularly in scholars that I've known at Howard University and other places, there has been a rising counter-revolution, including some of my friends in the black Muslim tradition, who I hope are listening tonight, who have been claiming that Europeans have been completely missing the point, and that the progenitors of the classic Old Kingdom Egyptian civilization were in fact none others than black Africans. And that the name Kemet, which means the black land,
Yes.
does not derive from the soil of Egypt, but from the people who built her. So when I get a source with good connection telling me that Farouk El-Baz went into that chamber with a high-tech video camera robot on the 20th of October and found a seated statue of a black man, the same Farouk El-Baz who was called upon by Louis Farrakhan to correct the miscounting of the Million-Man March by the Department of Interior last year.
The same man?
The same man, Dr. Farouk El-Baz, from aerial reconnaissance photography, from aircraft reconnaissance photography, helicopter photography, and a computer program he developed at the Center for Remote Sensing at Boston University, came out with a corrected count on behalf of Louis Farrakhan.
That is remarkable.
Ooh, isn't this going to be interesting?
It is, yes. Now, let's define black. Here's the fact.
Look at this. Listen.
The Egyptians were very dark Caucasians. I guess this means to be true. They were not black. So, do you want to stick with your description of a black man, or would this be a dark-skinned Egyptian, or is that too close to call it?
No, the description was a black man.
A black man.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind that if the statue was copper, and it was patinted, and it was as ancient and aging as,
True.
and you had a lousy video camera, color, notice how hypersensitive we are on color. The very fact that in this chamber there's only a guy sitting cross-legged with an arm looking up the shaft, I find stunning.
Well, we're also hypersensitive about color.
Yeah, but should we be?
No, hell no.
Now, here's one thing that really is.
Look at this.
Because Farrakhan and the black Muslims believe that Homo sapiens, the human race, is the descendants, the kind of nurtured stepchildren of a race of white guys who came from the sky, from the stars, and who placed civilization on Earth a long, long time ago.
Oh, that's right. There's a word, in fact, are ETs.
It's always kind of puzzling why, a bunch of very serious black folks would be willing to accept their heritage from a bunch of white guys from off planet. But that's another discussion.
Now, this is what I'm trying to say. Now, what he said here was that the Nation of Islam believe that their race comes from a white person. What he's doing here is piggybacking